Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Today's episode is a short and sweet solo episode. I decided I would do something new today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to two previous episodes that I've recorded and give you 5 of the takeaways from that episode, or a few takeaways from each of those 2 episodes, because, well, one of them, I think we didn't do a great job in the show notes of telling you guys exactly what was in there. And when I recorded that episode, I was so excited about it. And I feel like not a lot of people, if I read the show notes, I wouldn't know what it was about. I would think it was just about posture. And the episode I'm talking about is episode number 264. And it's an interview that I did a couple months ago that came out in September with a woman by the name of Annette Verpillot. Or some people might know her in the English world as Annette Verpilot. And Annette is a really interesting woman because she owns a company called Posture Pro. And so right away, you guys, your eyes may be glazing over and saying, okay, dude, I don't need somebody to tell me to put a book on top of my head and practice walking around to have good posture, not to slouch, roll my shoulders back, the whole 9 yards. But here's the cool thing about Annette. Annette doesn't talk about posture from the point of view of sitting up straight. She talks about posture in terms of how does your body establish proper posture? And it turns out that it doesn't have a lot to do with your conscious will to stand up straight, put your shoulders back, tuck your chin in, all the things that someone might tell you, let's say at the gym, or someone may have told you, your mother might have told you, stand up straight, stop slouching, keep your shoulders down, all those things, right? What Annette is talking about is how does the body program posture into you and how important that is. Now, it turns out that your feet are crucial to this posture. This is why I'm so excited about barefoot shoes, because barefoot shoes, like for example, Paluvas that I did an episode on earlier this summer, the barefoot shoes allow your feet to properly connect with the ground. And what happens is you've got all these nerve sensors in the bottoms of your feet that are sending messages back into the spinal cord and hence back to the brain. So you may probably have heard about this before and you're like, yeah, I know. Feet alignment, super important, right? But here's the part that nobody really talks about. The second part of posture is your eyes. And how your eyes align with the horizon has a ton to do with your posture, because what's happening is your feet are sending information from the ground up. Your eyes are sending information back in terms of what's ahead of you. And this is where pretty much everybody kind of misses the plot, because Annette talks about like more than 3/4 of us have a misalignment in our eyes, and the way that we can test that. And one of the reasons why I thought this was such a cool episode, quite apart from the fact that she's talking about something that none of us have heard of before, or most of us haven't heard of before, is because her solutions are so easy. They take no time at all, and they're completely free. Now, there's no doubt that people with more advanced issues might need greater interventions. She does consults. You can go to her website, posturepro.com. Even better, go listen to the episode to find out more about what she does. But this very simple exercise that I'm going to describe to you is a way for you to understand, are your eyes lined up properly? Are they working properly? Because if they're not working properly, they're not sending proper messages back to your brain. As a matter of fact, it's even having an effect on your nervous system. It is also having an effect on your pain. If you have lower back pain, if you have knee pain, if you have shoulder pain, if your shoulders are kind of off to the side, you might be one of those people that goes, oh yeah, my left shoulder is higher than my right shoulder, or my right arm is longer than my left arm. There's a really good chance that your right arm is not longer than your left arm. There's a really good chance that your body is misaligned, and it's not always misaligned because of a muscular imbalance. It may be misaligned because of the way that your eyes are feeding information back to your brain. So here's something really cool thing that you can do. You can go stand in a mirror or recruit a friend. Take a pen, hold the pen in front of your face. And now what I want you to do is stare at the tip and bring the pen back to your nose. So basically, I'm asking you to do that thing again that your mother told you never to do, which is to cross your eyes. What you will notice, or what your friend may notice for you, is that one of your eyes is going in completely towards the nose, but the other one isn't. This creates dissonance. right? This creates a misalignment. So your brain is constantly having to correct for that eye. Now, here's the other interesting thing that this affects. This affects your productivity. It affects children's ability to learn, to consume information, to read, because that eye that's dragging itself across might have to be reading the word backwards and then refilling the blanks. And so you might think that your child has some kind of a reading disability, but maybe it doesn't. And at the end of that episode, and again, I'm inviting you to go to listen to that episode because Annette is a great speaker. And the story that we do a bonus piece at the end of the episode, she talks about working with children who, these are the kids that their parents are sitting with them for 3 and 4 hours every night, fighting, doing homework, arguing. Like it's bedlam, right? It's terrible for the child, obviously, and for the parents. Well, she talks about working with these children, finding out very often that they have that misalignment in the eyes, correcting the misalignment of the eyes with super simple exercises that don't require any fancy equipment, guys. Super simple, free. And in short order, she gets a call back from the parents, crying, unbelievable, saying that their child suddenly is able to do their homework, that they're able to learn better, more easily, that they're able to retain information, that they're able to read, that they do math more easily. Like when she tells the story, honestly, it almost made me choke up because I've seen this. I saw it when my brother was a little kid and he would struggle. I mean, he was a smart kid and yet he was struggling to do his homework. And of course, parents have been working all day. They lose their patience. The kid loses his patience. The more longer it goes, the more tired they get. And maybe, because he was an athlete, maybe he had that misalignment in his eyes. Maybe his problem could have been solved just as easily. And so then she does these eye exercises with a pen. And I'm not going to describe it here. I think she describes it in the episode. If she doesn't describe it in the episode, go to posturepro.co and see and check out. I'm pretty sure she has free resources right there. But, I really felt like this episode got a bit of the short end of the stick and didn't get enough attention because, like I said, I was super excited about it. I was super stoked. And when I read the show notes just the other day, I was like, we didn't capture the essence of that episode. So understand that your posture in the way that she speaks about it, which is the posture that is programmed into your body from your brain, can not only just affect how tall you look, but it affects your digestion. It affects your mood. It can affect your longevity because it can affect your pain, your inflammation. And if we have chronic inflammation that is being driven by a misalignment that is so easy to solve, like talk about low hanging fruit. And some of the stories that she tells are absolutely crazy. So posture is so much more than keeping your back straight, keeping your shoulders back, and keeping your chin in. It really speaks to how your body is how your brain is communicating with your body, because your brain is the master here. The brain is the one. And if we can get our subconscious brain, the brain that we don't have to think about, the part of the brain that regulates breathing and heartbeat, if we can get that part of the brain firing properly and sending the proper signals to the muscles in the body to keep us aligned, how powerful is that? How amazing is it that she can even help people to reduce pain that other doctors just throw their hands up? Or you might be able to reduce the pain in your back or your knees without using any kind of painkillers, frankly, without using any kind of supplements, maybe. Okay. So that is Annette Verpilot. It's episode 264 of the Longevity Podcast. And if any of you guys end up going back and checking it out and listening to it and finding that it really kind of lands with you a little bit differently, please send me a note. Do it on Instagram. I mean, we'll definitely promote this episode on Instagram. So you'll be invited on Instagram to kind of share your comments. Please tell me if you checked it out and if you were as blown away as I was, because I got to tell you, this woman's work is spectacular. And honestly, I think that it should be almost required learning for every pediatrician or every gym teacher in schools working with small children. Like, it is just that kind of impactful. All right. So that was one episode that I kind of wanted to bring back to your attention because of all the reasons I gave you. I'm not going to repeat myself again. You've already heard me talk about it. So the second episode that I felt maybe didn't quite get the attention that it deserved, that I wanted to kind of give you a couple of high level points on, was episode 263. So it was a very recent episode. It was an episode that I recorded with Dr. Greg Kelly from Qualia Life. So Qualia Life used to be known as Neurohacker Collective. They changed the company name a little while ago, and they're the guys that make some of my favorite supplements. They make the Senolytic that I use for 2 days a month, and they also make this this NAD supplement that I use. And Greg is a bit of an expert when it comes to NAD, and NAD is one of those molecules that is, I think that it's a bit of a buzzword these days. People are incessantly arguing about it. Is it bioavailable? Isn't it bioavailable? Is it getting into the cell? Is it just sticking around in the circulation? Is it going to drive cancer? Is it going to make us sicker than it's going to make us better? Here's the thing about NAD. NAD is fundamentally an essential molecule for energy, for energy production and for cellular protection. Okay, so for DNA protection, like NAD is wildly important. It also contributes to cellular resilience as well as response to stress by the cell. So we're talking about our health at a cellular level here. So the big question is, how do we support NAD? So we have people who do NAD IVs, people who inject NAD subcutaneously, people who say that you should be taking NR, nicotinamide riboside, other people who say we should be taking nicotinamide mononucleotide, NMN, and yet others who are like, oh, just take B3, just take that niacinamide and you'll make NAD. And all of them are kind of right. And all of them are kind of, the truth lies somewhere in the middle, right? So it's definitely true that NR and NMN are precursors that have been extensively studied for potential health benefits. And that's where a lot of people end up landing. They're like, you know what? Let's give the body what it needs to make NAD. And that way we'll allow the cell to kind of do its thing. And so that's where supplementation really starts to sing. The thing is that there are mechanisms within the cell that also need support, especially as we age. There's a salvage pathway in the cell that recycles NAD. That salvage pathway starts to become less efficient as we age. And so it's important to support the salvage pathway, which is exactly why there's a whole bunch of different herbals and nutraceuticals in that Qualia NAD supplement to kind of support the the salvage pathway. In addition, there's an enzyme called CD38 that starts to get a little hungrier, let's say, or there's more pressure on this enzyme as we age. And so CD38 can be brought down because it chews up our NAD. CD38 can be kind of calmed down, if you will, again, with certain supplementation. So in this episode, and I don't want to go into great detail here, because if you guys want the detail, if you want to get into the nitty gritty and talk about the pathways and all the stuff, you're going to want to go back and listen to this episode 263, because Greg really takes us through the nitty gritty, the details of all of these pathways. That is how NAD does what it does for us and how we can properly supplement. Now, he talks about NAD IVs, and he's like, he's not particularly convinced the NAD IVs are all that necessary. He definitely acknowledges that they have massive value for people like with addictions. And that's where NAD IVs really come in. I personally do kind of a 5-day run of NAD IVs once a year, because just to kind of reboot the body. And, and he was pretty forthcoming. He goes, yeah, maybe there's benefit. We're not exactly sure. What we know is that when I'm doing those NAD IVs, there's a good chance that NAD may not be getting right into the cell. However, it's probably acting as a signaling molecule, even in the extracellular matrix or in plasma or in serum or somewhere, that's giving me those benefits. And it's, we know that it is impactful because when we're doing NAD IVs, we don't particularly feel great, right? You can be feeling quite nauseous. You kind of get that flip-floppy feeling in your stomach. It really kind of impacts how fast you can go on those IVs. But I know that when I walk out of that week, I always feel amazing. So Having said that, just because I'm going to do IVs for 3 or 4, or even 5 days at a time, once a year, how do I support my NAD levels for the rest of the year? And that for me is where the supplementation comes. That's where I find that for me, the logic of providing precursors to my body and allowing it to use them as it sees fit, with a bunch of other herbal things in there that help to support the salvage pathway. They help to support the like things like CD38 and push it in the right direction. That's where I really feel that I'm getting my benefit on a day-to-day basis. And I can tell you that for me, I definitely find that Qualia NAD over, after taking it for a couple of weeks, I definitely feel that my energy through the day is a lot steadier. I don't have any kind of dip in the afternoon. So that's that's kind of like the top shelf notes on that episode. So I'd love to invite you guys, if you haven't listened to that episode yet, go check it out. It's episode 263. It's an interview with Dr. Greg Kelly, who is the head formulator over at Qualia Life. So he's behind all the amazing formulas that they make over there. And yeah, I'm not taking you into the weeds, because if you want to go in the weeds, you want to go check out that episode. And then what else did I want to talk to you about in this solo episode? Oh yeah, somebody had asked me, one of the questions that we get a lot of is, what are your must-haves supplements for longevity? And, I was thinking, I don't love answering this question, because I think that it really depends on the person. And supplements is one of those things that is just, I think it's really, really bio-individual. It's not always the same for everybody, right? I could tell you that zinc is super important for longevity, and it is, but if you're not deficient in zinc, then you're not going to need to supplement with it. So the things that I think are really important are, obviously, keep an eye on your vitamin D3 levels. And if you're low in D3, then please supplement with D3 with K2. Okay. Now, some of the other supplements I'm going to talk about are not the run of the mill ones that most people will talk about. So I'm going to give you the ones that I think are actually really important. And so one is, harkening back to this last podcast I was just talking about, is the senolytic. I like the senolytic formula from Qualia. I think that it does a really nice job 2 days a month of reducing the load of senescent cells in the body. And I'm not looking to eradicate senescent cells in the body. You need a little bit for signaling purposes. So that's why I like the Qualia Senolytic, is because it's 2 days a month and it reduces the load without wiping those guys out. Okay, so that's number one. The second one, I would say, and I used to talk about this a lot, I talk about it a little less these days, but it's no less important, is a good spermidine supplement. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm a huge fan of Oxford Healthspan, Primadine. The reason why I think Primadine stands head and shoulders above most other spermidine supplements is because it's food-based spermidine, and it doesn't just include spermidine, it actually also includes putrescine and spermine. I mean, could you imagine 3 worse words? So here's why putrescine and spermine are important. Because putrescine, spermine, and spermidine, they kind of rotate, they kind of recycle each other. And there's some evidence in the literature that it's possible that spermine is actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting. It's not just the spermidine. And so when you're taking something like the Primadine, or Oxford Healthspan's Primadine, you're getting all of spermidine, spermine, and putrescine. So you're kind of tapping into all 3. Now, I have to tell you that that's only in their original formula that is extracted from wheat germ. And there's almost no gluten in that formula. There's, I think, 40 milligrams of gluten per dose. If you're celiac, or you really know that you absolutely cannot tolerate gluten, then I would say go to their spirulina, which is gluten-free. And she's put other amazing ingredients in there. But if you are able to tolerate like the tiny amount of gluten, I would say that the original formula of the Primadine from Oxford Healthspan is really worth a shot, because even though I've taken higher dose spermidines from other places, I think it's the interplay between those 3 ingredients that is where the magic really lies on that supplement. And, there's ongoing research going on. I mean, given the fact that spermidine is said to positively impact I think it's at least 9, if not all 12 of the current hallmarks of aging. That tells us that there's really something to this compound, and it's a compound that is native to the body. So in my world, we're always going to want to try to do those. Okay, 2 more things I want to talk to you about. One is plasmalogens. Now, listen, you asked about supplements. I'm telling you about supplements, right? So plasmalogens come from a company called Prodrome Science. And actually, the plasmalogens, it's not plasmalogens that they're providing you. They're actually plasmalogen precursors. So there's 2 formulas. There's a neuro formula and a glia formula. The neuro formula we use in the morning. The glia formula we use at night. He also has formulas that are combined with this egg yolk phosphatidylcholine. So what I'll say about the egg yolk phosphatidylcholine is it's probably the best form of phosphatidylcholine that is the most bioavailable for our body. Here's the challenge. It's wildly expensive. These supplements are totally, they're a total investment, right? Now, you can get just the neuro and just the glia if you don't have any major issues. All we're trying to do here, the reason why I think that it's such an important supplement for longevity is because what it's doing is it's helping us to improve the cell membrane. And if the cell membrane is healthy, guys, everything starts to go well for the cell. It means that the right things are getting in, the right things are getting moved out, the passage through that membrane is appropriate, it's the right things at the right time. So even if you did, if you ran a month of taking neuro in the morning, and you can take anywhere from 2 to 6 capsules in the morning. Look, 6 capsules is a lot. It's going to cost you a bunch of money. If you did 2 or 4 a day, it would be fine. And then if you did the glia, same thing, 2, 4, or 6 every night for a month. A lot of people find that they really feel a difference. They sleep better, they recover better, and it's all because all those cell membranes are getting healthier. As a matter of fact, even your mitochondrial membranes are going to benefit from this. And we know mitochondria, right? Energy factories. We had an episode come out just 2 weeks ago with a company called MeScreen. MeScreen looks at your mitochondrial function, and then you will sit with someone and they will tell you what to do to improve your mitochondrial function. And when I did my test, and I'm going to be doing an intervention and retesting in another month or 2, and then I'll do an episode on that. But when I did my test, the scientist, Himal Patel, sat with me and said, look, your cellular wall needs work. You need to get some of those plasmalogen precursors in. And then the other thing you need is going to be phosphatidylcholine. So in my case, because I don't have a neurodegenerative disease or any kind of a major issue going on, I'm giving myself permission to use the Body Bio PC oil. Now, Dr. Dan Goodnow would say it's nowhere near as bioavailable as his egg yolk choline. And he may be right. The only thing is that I don't know that the egg yolk choline is necessarily affordable or accessible to most of us. And if I don't have MS, ALS, any kind of neurodegenerative disease, which is a lot of the population that he's working with, those people need a ton of support. I'm going to leave that egg yolk formula for them. I'm going to use the Body Bio PC oil, which actually he was using until very recently in his clinic, until he developed his own stuff. And I think does a beautiful job of supplying our cells with the phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylserine. It's a whole complex of healthy lipids for the cell membrane. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I eat probably 6 to 8 runny egg yolks every single week. Okay, not every single day, but every week. Because the runny egg yolks is where, again, we're going to get the bioavailable phosphatidylcholine. We're going to get all those healthy fats that our cell membrane needs in the form that it was intended to be provided to our body. All right, so that's my kind of odd list. I will say that if you want to kind of get into the fancier stuff, like the alpha ketoglutarate or some of those other compounds that are anti-aging, there's a couple of companies that make really good kind of agglomerated, I don't know if that's the right word, but basically they've gone through all the research and they've put together really nice stacks of specifically anti-aging / longevity supplements. One of those companies is called Hopbox. And Hotbox is the brainchild of Dr. Amy Killen with a bunch of other people. And what they've done is they've created these cute little sachets with, I think there's maybe 5 or 6 capsules in each sachet, but it is a complete, like it, and it's, what's amazing about it is they go through the literature and they'll even tweak the formulas every once in a while based on the literature that they've seen. And you take 1 sachet in the morning, 1 sachet in the evening, and you're done. So when I'm traveling, I will often take my hot box. I'll just count out how many sachets I need for the days I'm away. It's one of the easiest ways to really kind of get your more advanced longevity kind of anti-aging stacks in. So that's kind of my answer right now for my must-have supplements for longevity. It's a list that changes and evolves constantly. I would say that things like the senolytic, the senolytic, the spermidine, the plasmalogens, the phosphatidylcholine, at least periods of it, and the D3K2 are things that will never change. They will always be on my list in some way, shape, or form. But some of these other compounds, I would say, are going to change. And then, of course, any deficiency that you might have has got to be addressed. So if you need methylated Bs, you need to be taking those for longevity. That's part of your longevity stack. I need to be taking methylated Bs, but not everybody does. So getting regular lab work, again, really, really important, because that's going to give you incredible insight in terms of what it is that you need to get yourself through the decades in good health and with vitality. So I hope that's helpful, you guys. I've been chatting for, not quite 30 minutes. I made it in my 30-minute deadline. Let me know what you think of this episode. And if you want me to do more of these types of episodes where I kind of go back to an older episode and, in case you missed it, kind of give you some of the top line learnings from those episodes and maybe give you a reason to go back and check it out, or maybe check out the company's website. You guys know that you can go to natnidham.com for everything that you need. There's the Nat Recommend section. If I talk about supplements here, they're most likely in that Nat Recommend section. There'll be links and codes for you. You can use them there. If you choose not to use the codes, it's totally fine. No harm done. The codes are affiliate codes, so they do kind of fund the business, but it's entirely a personal decision that I'm going to leave with you. So thank you for being here. Remember to go to natnidham.com for anything that you need, and don't forget to sign up for the newsletter, because the newsletter right now comes with an 8-part series of newsletters that talks about the foundations that I teach my clients about how to optimize their health and get them ready for more advanced biohacking. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you again soon.